Namaste, we're the Studio Yogis. It's been a little while since I've uploaded something, so I wanted to add something on the psoas muscle. So this is going to be a short 30-minute exercise working on the psoas. So we'll start as usual, laying in the back in constructive rest position. Knees are bent, feet are flat on the ground, allowing the spine to be in a neutral position. The natural curves of the lower back, the upper back. Feeling both of your feet on the ground, feeling the back of your pelvis, noticing the curve of your lower back moving upward, a little bit less pressure on your lower back, on the back of your pelvis. Feeling your mid back and your upper back between your shoulder blades. Feeling each of your shoulder blades and each of your arms. Letting your skull rest on the ground, feeling the gentle pressure in the back of your head. Relaxing the roof of your mouth, allowing it to broaden and soften. Jaw muscles release. And belly rises and falls as you breathe. Seeing with your out breath if you can allow your belly to sink each time you breathe out. This natural sinking of the belly actually begins to stimulate the psoas muscles, which lie right in the back of the pelvic bowl. And so, as your guts sink downwards with your out breath, give some gentle pressure against the psoas muscle, giving some circulation, getting some movement, even in this relatively passive position. Again, it's a constructive rest position, so there is a value to this. This is why we begin our yoga practice this way, not only for the physical body, but for the mind. Allowing the mind to stop, allowing the body to stop, and take some time with itself. And taking a deeper in-breath and a longer out-breath, just letting the breath out slowly. Drawing your knees up towards your chest, eyes can be open if they were closed, just a gentle gaze, and rolling over to your right side. From there, at your own pace, you can use your arms to push yourself up to a seated position. So as I mentioned, the psoas muscle is what we're going to be focusing on today. It's a muscle that starts right about where if you could draw a line back from your navel to your lower back. It starts about there, then goes down the pelvic bowl inside, and then connects to the inside of the legs right here and the inside of the thigh bones. So it's an odd muscle, but very useful for stabilizing the body, very good for posture. One of the first ways to get in touch with the psoas that we'll work with today is just getting in this sort of half kneeling position. It's good to, if you have like a blanket or something, if your knees bother you, just putting something underneath your knee. If you have a thick yoga mat, that can work too. We want to make sure that this angle here with the front leg is at about a 90-degree angle with the ground. I've got my right leg forward right now. And so from here, we're going to see if we can lift the hip crest up. By lifting the hip crest like that, we're actually kind of lengthening the psoas muscle through here. So it's important to keep the hip crests lifted like this throughout the whole. This kind of also flattens out the back and draws in the butt a little bit. So from here, try to keep the pelvis relatively level, lifting the hip crests, drawing yourself forward, and then coming back. So as you do this, it's almost like you're front foot is dragging your foot forward. So this is not passive. We're not just kind of falling forward. We're actually using the front foot to drag us forward. If the ground had no friction whatsoever, you would actually see my foot would slide back. My front foot would slide back. So I'm beginning to feel a little bit of a tug through here in the front part of my thigh. And that's a good indication that I've got the psoas muscle kind of warming up. So we want to be able to work the psoas muscle in all of its different extremities. This is kind of a long version of it, long and pulling. The other version of this is to actually push a little bit. So we're going to push with the forward foot forward and the back foot back. You can do this with your foot flat on the ground like so, or you can put your toes underneath. Either way, whatever works best for you. But feel kind of pushing back with your back foot and pushing forward with your forward foot. So I'm also, again, just keeping my hip crest as lifted as I can. I'm going to feel that stretch and that muscular movement right through there. So again, kind of pushing, releasing, pushing, releasing, pushing, and so on. If you want to coordinate this with your breath, you certainly can. The breathing normally is good. As long as you're breathing, it's an important thing. And that feels pretty good for that side. So I'm just going to switch around to the other side. Oh yeah, I can feel that psoas muscle is pretty awake now. So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to start by having this box here, lifting the hip crests, like so, keeping the hip crest lifted as we do this motion, and pulling ourselves forward with the forward leg. You can kind of see, maybe you can see my leg is flexing a little bit as I do that. Trying to keep my hips relatively lifting up, drawing myself forward, and then releasing. Again, you should try to feel this on the inside, like this angle of the leg. We'll get some hamstring action here too, obviously. The hamstring is having to pull us forward as we do this. One more of these, and then we can go ahead and push. So pushing with the back leg back, front foot pushes forward. Same kind of thing, only in reverse. So last time we were kind of drawing together. Now we're pushing apart. Pushing the back leg back. Again, back toes could be touching the ground like that. I'll make sure you're doing your best to keep the hip crest lifted. Just get some activation through here, lengthening and strengthening the psoas muscle. Psoas muscle tends to be very weak in our culture because we have chairs with backs that support us, whereas normally the psoas muscle would help with that. Because we have those backed chairs, we have very weak psoas muscles. And when the body has a weak muscle, it compensates by making it tight. So stretching, lengthening, and strengthening that muscle. All right, that's good. I can feel that in my body. I can really feel that those muscles have been worked pretty hard. So when I'm making sure that I cue this, I want to think about this in other positions too. So, for example, we stand up into what would be like a warrior one preparation position. So both sets of toes are facing forward, like so. There's a tendency for the back heel to come in a little bit like that, so if you can make sure to keep both sets of toes going forward. Same thing, I'm going to lift my hip crests and then slide my hip forward. The back foot is just kind of pushing, heels coming off the ground, settling back down. And the heel can actually remain off the ground for this entire movement. Well, the back heel, I should say. So getting my balance here, lifting my hip crests. Notice I'm really trying to make sure I keep my hip crest lifted. Hips are relatively stable, facing forward, so I don't want to be like this. I want to make sure that hips are in a line. back leg is straight. Again, accessing that same psoas muscle area that we were before, right through here. All right, you can make this your last one. Go ahead and turn the back heel inward, let it come down. And we're still lifting with the hip crest. You can still feel that psoas muscle turned on. And then maybe adjust so my hips are facing a little more forward while still keeping that lifted hip crest. Arms lift overhead, and this is warrior one, or you could also do this with palms together, like so. Warrior one with palms together, or arms extended overhead. A lot of times in other types of yoga, that are apart from alignment yoga, you'll have a deeper stance with this. People will be really deep down like that. Really, you can do that, but really the main thing that I'm working with here with alignment yoga is just trying to get the psoas muscle stretched out, long and strong. The depth of posture is not super important. Go ahead and step forward. And then with your other foot, go ahead and step back with your other foot. Again, just making sure that both sets of your toes are facing forward. Feet in terms of this direction are about hip width apart. The distance from the back foot to the front foot is really going to depend on you, what feels balanced, because there's a little bit of a side-to-side balance challenge here. Lifting your hip crests, and go ahead and pushing forward, keeping the hip crest lifted. Again, making sure that back leg is relatively straight, maybe a little micro bend in the knees is good. Hips are basically just sliding forward. So this is not a up-down movement. This is just straight forward, straight back. Forward, back. Heel's going to come off the ground in the back. Totally fine. That's actually good. All right, that's probably plenty. Go ahead and turn your back heel inward. Let it come down, keeping the hip crest lifted. Maybe you turn your back foot a little bit so your hips are more forward. Raising arms up. Warrior one, or palms together. All right, and stepping up. Great. Okay. So we'll do a little bit of sun salutation. Got a lot of movement going through here. You can just feel how this happens in sun salutation as well. Starting in Tadasana, palms together, toes facing forward, but hip width apart. And with your out breath, let your hands go down and back. Your in breath, arms come forward and up. Lifting your hip crests. With your out breath, tipping forward to touch down, letting your head hang. Looking back between your legs, left leg steps back, and now we're in this position again. You can step deeper back if that works for you. And then from here, we're going to try that dragging the front foot back, back foot forward, back knee forward in this position. Knee can also be off the ground for a greater challenge. And then stepping back to downward facing dog. Sending your hips away from your hands, bending the knees, really making the spine long. Coming forward to plank or half plank, drawing in the elbows, coming down. Pressing down to the feet, activating your hamstrings. Lifting up into a little cobra, bending between the shoulder blades. And push up and back, downward dog. And looking between your hands to where your step, left foot steps forward. And right knee can either hover or come down, making sure again the hips are relatively even on this plane. This forward leg is about 9-degree angle from the ground, perpendicular to the ground. Back knee can be hovering or down, drawing the front foot back, back foot forward, lifting up, and with your out breath, stepping forward, the forward fold, letting your head hang. Peeking up, half lift. Pressing palms into shins, the out breath, forward fold. And then with the in breath, coming all the way up, arms reach overhead. With your out breath, palms come back together. We'll go through another round. With your out breath, palms go down and back. With your in breath, arms come forward and up. As you breathe out, tipping forward from the waist to touch down, letting your head hang. This time, the other foot steps back. Knee hovers off the ground. Maybe it touches, either way. This time, instead of drawing the feet together, I'm going to push the forward foot forward, push the back foot back. So, this is really lengthening as we're strengthening. And then stepping back to downward facing dog, sending your hips up and back, and your knees amply. Really let the spine be long. Coming forward to plank or half plank. Half plank just has knees down, feet up like that. You want to make sure that whatever you do, try to bring your whole torso down at once. Activating your hamstrings, lifting your hip crest, bending between your shoulder blades to come up into a little cobra. And then pushing up and back, downward facing dog. Letting your spine be long, looking between your hands, right leg steps forward. Again, back heel can be off the ground, making sure the hips are even facing forward. Not like this, more like this. And then go ahead and push forward your forward foot, push back with the back foot to lengthen the psoas muscle on the other side, lengthening and strengthening. With your out breath, stepping forward, forward fold, letting your head hang. With an in breath, peeking up, extending your spine. With an out breath, forward fold. With an in breath, coming all the way up. And with an out breath, palms come back together to the chest. Okay, great. So, some other positions where it's or some other things you can do with this psoas movement is something that you can do in any kind of lunge pose. One of the other things that you can do is to apply a little bit of resistance within your own body. So pressing, like I've got my right knee forward, for you it's probably your left if you're mirroring me. Placing the opposite hand is going to press this way, and then the knee is going to press that way. So I'm pressing knee against my hand. Taking a full breath here. And then releasing. Placing my palm on the outside. This time I'm going to press this knee that way as I press my hand this way. So pressing knee against hand, full breath. In and out. Stabilizing the muscles all around the hip. Alright, switching knees out. Again, you want to have that same kind of position we were having before. This is going to be perpendicular to the ground, shin bone. And so placing the hand, on the inside of the knee, like this. Pressing in with the knee, with the hand. Pressing out with the knee, and in with the hand. I can do this on the other side again, just kind of getting that same motion going, pressing in with the hand, out with the knee. Full breath in and out. Pressing in with the knee, out with the hand. Full breath in and out. Switching up. In with the knee, out with the hand. Full breath in and out. Out with the knee, in with the hand. Full breath. All right, so we work these hips pretty well. One more movement, one more type of movement. We're going to see if we can kind of make the psoas muscle strong when it's tight, or it's strong when it's short. We do a lot of movement with the psoas muscle being lengthened while it's being strengthened. This is going to be something where we're doing something to work it at its short range. So get yourself into a normal tabletop position, and then taking your right knee, drawing it towards either up towards your elbow, towards your right elbow, or maybe towards the middle, towards your nose. Towards the elbow is a little bit better. It's going to be a little bit easier to do. It's going to get the same kind of activation. So let's try the other side this time. Left knee to left elbow, drawing that in, squeezing that in. And come back in, squeezing towards the elbow, and back. If you want a greater challenge for this, you can always try to do this from more of a plank position. You're drawing knee towards elbow, and then on the other side, knee towards elbow. Knee towards elbow, and knee towards elbow. You can also coordinate this with a flow, so you can start from something like a down dog, and if you're able to do it, three-legged dog, lifting up the right leg, and then coming forward to this plank position, drawing to elbow, and back up, and drawing to elbow, back up, drawing to elbow. If downward dog here is not going to be accessible, you can go to either of those prior versions of this, either with the knee drawing up, with plank drawing up, or going the full way up into three-legged dog. Left knee to left elbow. And then just coming down into regular old tabletop. It might be good to do a little bit of cat-cow just to kind of loosen up the back here after all that movement, all that intensity. Just starting here, curling underneath the tailbone, rounding the back up, finally the head moves, then uncurling, tailbone letting the belly drop, torso drops, then the head lifts up. Starting with tailbone curling under, lower back, finally the head. Just kind of doing this with your own speed, with your own breath. Sometimes it's nice to incorporate some organic movements as well. Maybe some side to side. One of the things I really like to do is in the cat mode, when I'm kind of rounding up, is to sink backwards into the right, backwards into the left a little bit. A little side to side is nice too. Okay. Great. And coming back into a child pose. And coming forward into prone mountain. So for prone mountain, you're going to have your palms right to your ribs, to your sides, like so. Elbows are pointing up, basically, kind of like the legs of a grasshopper. Nose points right down at the ground. See if you can get your sternum as close as you can down to the ground, all the way up to your collarbone if possible. Point your nose right down at the ground, just hovering it just off the ground. This creates thoracic extension through the top of the neck, through the top of the spine and through the neck. I guess it would be cervical extension through the neck. And then creating a little bit of resistance, you press your palms into the ground just lightly and drag your palms back. They're not going to move, but it's going to activate your shoulders a little bit. Activating your hamstrings, lifting your hip crests, continuing to breathe. Bending right between your shoulder blades to lift up into a little cobra, keeping that feeling of thoracic extension. You don't need to crane your neck here. Actually, the neck, your eyes can still be pointing at the ground. See if we can make that bend happen mostly in the upper back. And 3, continue to breathe. 2, roof of the mouth is relaxed. 1, and then pushing up and back to child pose. Always nice to do a forward fold after a back bend. All right, and returning to your back for a supine leg stretch. If you have a strap, this would be a good time to put the strap around the ball of your left foot. Laying back onto the ground, putting that strap there, other leg extends, and just gently stretching your hamstring. Obviously, it doesn't have to be as far as mine is. If you have the strap, it may be up here, maybe there, maybe here. Doesn't matter as long as you're getting a hamstring stretch. Just kind of feeling that nice stretch, getting that forward fold to down-regulate the body. Fairly intense workout. It didn't look like that much was going on, but there's a lot going on inside. The psoas muscle, very important muscle. And then you can go ahead and cross your ankle over your knee to get a little bit of this IT band stretch, kind of pushing your knee out. To get that, if you still aren't feeling it, you might draw your other leg up, grab your thigh, and pull your knee towards your chest a little bit. Very calming, very cooling, forward fold. Letting the nervous system calm down. Opening up the hips in a different way. Okay, then go ahead and release that. Just feeling both legs laying out flat on the ground for a few moments. Noticing the difference between left and right. I can feel my left feels light and open. Maybe one leg feels longer than the other, or one hip feels closer to the ground. And then go ahead and place the strap on the ball of your right foot. And stretching the hamstring on this side as well. Letting the yoga routine hit its full extent. Going from being very active, being very intense, to being more calm and restful. Bending your opposite knee, crossing your ankle over your knee. Pressing your knee outward a little bit to get the IT band. If you need more, go ahead and grab your thigh, draw your knee towards your chest. Relaxing the roof of the mouth, feeling your body grounding. And then go ahead and relax both legs out onto the ground. Just take some time for introspection. This can transition right into Shavasana. Eyes can be gently open or can be closed. Just taking a few moments to run a body scan, beginning by feeling the backs of your heels on the ground, backs of your calves, letting your thigh bones sink downward, letting your tailbone roll out onto the ground, relaxing the pelvic floor. Feeling each of those psoas muscles, imagining them. If you work them today, you can remember to kind of have in your mind's eye that feeling of working that psoas muscle. Maybe you can currently feel it, maybe not. and just allowing that muscle to relax. Just inviting it to relax. It's not something that you can force, but just asking it politely if it would be okay just to relax a little bit. Maybe imagining that your muscles are like the beads on a necklace, that each part of the muscle, as it contracts, the beads in the necklace come together, and that inviting those beads to separate and spread apart. Signaling for the psoas muscle that we're taking care of it, we're making it stronger, doesn't need to be so tense, doesn't need to cause any other issues of the lower back. Feeling lower back release, unwind. Being aware of the mid back, the upper back, each of the shoulder blades, and each of the arms laying on the ground. Relaxing the roof of your mouth, allowing it to broaden and soften. Allowing your belly to sink with each out breath. Hoping to gently push some of that lactic acid out of those muscles that have been working. Seeing as I don't have my bell with me, I think I will do an Om to guide us out of the practice. Taking a deeper in-breath and a longer out-breath. Opening your eyes with a soft gaze if they were closed. Drawing your knees up towards your chest and rolling over to your left side if the space allows. Using your hands to push yourself up into a seated position. Just taking your time. I invite you to join me in one more in and out breath with a glass. With an in-breath, arms come up overhead. With an out-breath, palms come together. Adjust. Namaste. May you and yours and our whole community be healthy